Welcome to Whahahappen, the podcast where we talk about our latest chismes,
or gossip with you non-Spanish speaking folks.
crazy travel stories, hood memoirs, and food and wine.
This is an adult podcast.
So some of our topics may make our listeners a wee bit uncomfortable.
Listener discretion is advised.
And if you're of legal drinking age,
Grab a glass of wine
or a beverage of your choice, and enjoy the show. Today, I'm not going to do shit. Like,
it sounds like you've been yelling too. Like your voice is a little raspy. Exciting. Well, we can get into that later.
No, it's fine. But anyway, welcome to Whahahappen. I'm Lala.
And here we are again. And what happened was a lot of things are happening.
Yeah, a ton of stuff. But we recently decided to go to the Getty, the Villa, the Villa Getty.
The Getty Villa. And I've never been to the Getty Villa, but
yeah. I did it backwards.
Yeah.
Yes,
I've never been to the Getty Villa.
Well, me neither. Me neither.
So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, and so they had given me a free parking pass. So because the villa is actually free to go to, but the only thing you have to pay for is parking, which is like $25. And I had received as a gift a parking pass. So I'm like, all you have to do is just make a reservation. Well, I don't even know if you have to make a reservation. I think you can just show up as well.
Well, I mean, I'm sure they get sold out because when we went, they had like a lot of tours and kids and stuff. So, I mean, I'm sure they get
oops,
it can get
I didn't mean to make that bad face. I'm like, oh yeah.
I mean, they're like elementary kids, so they're kind of filled with like curiosity. But
well, I'm sure it's like they take the kids on the chingaderas.
The tours. Oh,
no,
and field trips.
What do they call it? Field trips? Yeah, some other.
Yeah, field trips.
Field trips.
Yeah. So we had both not gone, and this is kind of part of our much like Catalina Island, one of our things that you can do in LA without leaving LA and kind of getting away. And
without getting too far away, but it's also fucking free. But it's also fucking free. And like also okay, so and you can sign up for tours, like guided tours with like somebody a docent who speaks and says things and whatever, but it's all free. And so it's just like, oh my God, like not a lot of museums have that is available for free. And so I was really impressed. And then also you can download an application that literally kind of says exactly what your docent says. I downloaded it after the fact and I actually listened to the tour we went on.
Oh, it's like after kind of verbatim? Like, hey, this is exactly what it said.
Not verbatim. No.
Not verbatim, but
no. Actually, the guy had a lot more insight or whatever than the guided tour, but still, I just thought it was really cool that you can, should you choose not go through the volunteer docents, you can also have the application that you just go to the chingadera and it tells you, oh, Amaya spot this number, whatever, and then it tells you the history or whatever.
The villa, it's a villa of an Italian nature. I know there's different villas all across the world, but this was one designed and created to replicate an Italian villa from like the Pompeii era. I don't know how long that is. I'm not a historian here, but it was pretty fancy, everything.
And the fact that she said, well, we also did the architecture tour, which was in love with that. But this is like a miniature size of what an actual villa would look like if you went to Italy, That's what I was just like, what? Like, this is a miniature? Fuck off.
Yeah, it was pretty nice size. It was big. I didn't know what to expect, but it was kind of beautiful and everything is functional. Everything's got like a certain architectural aesthetic. So when you look at something that's very, how shall I say,
aesthetically pleasing, but also functional. And so that's one thing that she made a point of in our architectural tour, is that even though everything's beautiful and lavish and stuff, but also extremely functional, which I thought like, oh my God, that is totally up my alley. Like, oh,
One day we'll have a villa, Lala's villa, and it's just going to be big and functional.
yes. Mi casa en Mexico.
Yeah.
One day.
Yeah, no, it
Hashtag
was
goals.
what was our first tour was the pottery.
So we did the exhibition tour, Picture Worlds, Greek, Maya, and Mochi pottery.
The common denominator for all this was most of these things were found in burial sites, and that's why they were preserved. But and then they realized that most of these things were for drinking wine and drinking other things, except for the
Well,
Peruvian
okay.
ones, right? Mostly.
Well, no, they had, the ones with the little circle on top, which was also like a ritual drinking for they don't know what
Yeah.
because okay, so what they explained was that the Peruvians didn't have a written language, so they didn't leave anything behind. So you just have to kind of just speculate, wildly speculate
Oh
as
yeah.
to what, each thing meant. But because most of these artifacts were found in grave sites, they think it's like a ritualistic artifact. And this is one thing that the docent said. It's just like you have three different cultures during three different times
Times.
in totally different parts of the world. And when you do kind of a comparison, they are doing the same types of rituals, which is uh, congregating and having beverages and in the
Mm.
pottery, and then stories written in the potteries. And it's just I just loved the comparison of and they're in totally different eras, different parts of the world, and they're kind of doing the same shit, you know what I mean? So I was really blown away by that.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing. I mean, it was just like the when you actually saw these things, especially like the mochi ones, the ones from Peru, it was like a comic strip. It kind of read like a comic strip, and it was funny ones. It was kind of like, what is this? Is this real? You wouldn't think it was from thousands of years ago.
Dude,
It's just
it
like it could be
looked
like something that would have been in a
exactly like a
comic strip.
comic book. Yeah, and I was just like, are you fuck and it had like even the stripes, like you can like literally read it around the whole pottery. And I was just like, oh my God. Yeah, I loved it. It,
That's
it, it
pretty
was
amazing.
so I could almost imagine it like if you're reading a comic book.
Yeah. I mean, and all the pottery had similar instances of of paintings and things like that. And for me, it's just like you think of all that pottery and then all the time it took to get all the tiny details into every single one. Like, wow, I wonder how long that was. But to me, that
Yeah,
was really
there
interesting.
was no such thing as mass production.
No, I mean, all the artisans really had their shit together because, man, those things were like fine detailed and it was just beautiful to look at. To think that it would be so preserved. If you saw it, you would think that this can't be real, but it's real, or is it? I mean, I don't know. It was
I
because we
mean,
were
it
there,
was
we
in
were
front of
watching. It
the.
was just
I was like, what
yeah,
are
and
you
it's
talking
just like
about? It was in front of
yeah,
us.
no, for sure. But it just seems so you're kind of like just
Surreal.
kind of
Yeah.
surreal because it's so clear and
Well,
beautiful in
so
a way.
precise and so and one thing that they explained the reason why they have these is because they were buried, and this is the only reason that and like the ones from Greece is because they were buried underneath the Pompeii, the volcano that erupted and Chingaleras. And so
Hmm.
that's why it preserved a lot of the things. And but in the Greek ones was just all of it was all about wine. And so I really and like the ones for the Maya was all about like hot chocolate.
Yeah, hot chocolate, wine, and who knows what the Peruvians drink, but I'm sure they
Yeah,
drank
like
some like kind of
well, they
they
had
drink
a
some
lot
kind
of
of corn
barley for
drink.
beverages, but we don't know what it was precisely. So,
one thing I gotta
We
real
can
I
just
was just having
guess.
a good time because then they were all drinking. I mean, in
Dude,
the drinking game, I'm just like, what kind of tour? And like, I
dude,
mean, it just made you
dude,
want to
dude,
drink
you
wine.
literally lit up at the whole Greek fucking pottery. You were like,
Yeah.
what? Like, I want one of these and I want one of that.
I mean, if you think about it, like all their like pottery, the vessels, there was like they had different sizes for different occasions for different parties where they would put wine in, and then they had different ladles to pull the wine out. So you look at these things, you're like, wow, that's like a giant thing to hold wine, and they partied hard, I guess.
But they did say that in those times they reduced the wine with water.
Mm,
So they weren't drinking wine straight because they said solamente los rudos tomaban el vino así como derecho,
mm.
como, like, so how would you say, like, but if you were like a fine person in Greece,
A
you would
noblewoman.
water down, yes, you would like water down your wines. So you would actually drink it, like it add water to it.
Mm. I mean, there must have been a trick to it. I mean, it must have been pretty strong, and
Well, for
who
them to
knows?
have, because they were huge. I mean, it was like era una cacerola, like a casserole of
Yeah,
wine.
well,
I'm like, how do you drink that much wine? And it's like, oh, it's because they watered it down. And I'm like, oh, that makes a lot more
yeah, it
sense.
would have been like a bottle of wine. If you put a bottle of wine in this vessel that the Greeks drink, and they drank it like a cup, it's just like okay. And then the whole
Right,
point was
but it
to
would be
finish it.
probably half of the wine because they would add
Mm,
half water.
mm.
So then I'm like, oh, okay. So
We're gonna
and
have to get
then,
one of those vessels for sure.
oh my God, do they sell
Let's try to.
replicas?
Yeah, no, I'm gonna look for those and then try to buy one or two, and
Well,
then
and then
maybe
also
try to
like,
drink out of it.
and the docent was explaining how, you know, how you get the crystals at the end of the red wine, and they would
Wine
like
diamonds.
throw it and you create a game out of it or something. I was just like,
Yeah,
what?
you have the
Like,
wine diamonds that you find at the end, at the end of your bottle. Sometimes if you're eating or like eating, drinking organic wines, you'll find like a lot of the residue and silt underneath the bottle.
yeah, at the
So
end
that's
of
what
the
they would
bottle. Hmm.
throw to the wall or throw somewhere like it was part
Like
of their
a,
game, one of the games they
they
play.
would do like a who could throw furthest or some, or like a target or something like that. I forgot
Yeah.
what he
So
said.
you could hit something. Yeah. Usually had a target.
Which
I
was
mean,
like a circular thing. Like, that's not a very good, I don't know. I'm like,
I mean, I
what
guess
kind
with a
of
lot with any practice,
shenanigans?
with any
Wait,
good
what was the
practice,
word that they used for a symposium?
a symposium. Yes.
What kind of
You would
symposium
have a
was this?
symposium. There's a
Of
symposium.
wine.
Yeah.
So we actually also sat down and had wine and
Of course. After
food,
that, you're just like, how can you not, right?
right? I was like, dude, after all this talk about wine, can we talk about having wine and some food? And so we actually had like an amazing meal with like, oh, and actually somebody stopped like as we were having our lunch. And she
They're
was
like,
like, that lady, she was just like, she just stopped and she was like, yeah, that's the way to
that's
have a lunch. And we were like, yes. We're in Tuscany. We're
I was just
pretending
like
to be in Tuscany right now, okay?
that's the whole thing is just like we can't be there, but why? I mean, we can't be in Italy, but why not? Why not? Buy a
Wine,
bottle of
not
Tuscan wine. Why not?
wine. Why not?
Not right, right. No, that was pretty delicious, and it was quite fun. I mean, it's still, LA. The weather we've been having, it wasn't quite sunny, but it's still nice and cool.
It
So
was
out.
warm. It was, even though I thought it was gonna be colder because it's near the beach, because it's in Malibu, right? It's, or Malibu
Hmm.
adjacent somewhere. Um, so I brought a sweater, but I also get cold easily, so I always overdress because I'm like, I don't like being cold. But it actually warmed up for lunchtime, so I actually took off my sweater and I was just like, oh, okay. And it could have been the wine also that warmed me up, but
That was quite nice though. I gotta say that was quite nice. And then I mean the what was your favorite pottery in the first pottery thing? Was it there's this lima bean war from the
Oh my
Peruvian things.
God.
It's called the
Okay.
lima bean war.
Yeah. Oh,
The
so
lima bean
okay.
war.
So I listened. Okay, so after we went, I actually downloaded because my phone was dying, and so I was just so preoccupied with taking pictures and videos and stuff. And anyway, so I downloaded the application afterwards and actually listened to the entire tour we went through, but in the application. And so what they think is in according to this app, with whoever's narrating in the app, they think that the lima bean is kind of like one character with all these movements. So you know how like action movements, but they
Oh,
in
whoa,
order
whoa,
for
whoa,
you
whoa.
to
Yeah, yeah.
paint the action movements, so it's the same lima bean, but doing all these action. And so they're like, well, maybe it was this, and then they actually mentioned like it could have been kind of like a comic strip, like a. And so I was just like,
A
what?
lima bean comic strip, by the way.
Yes.
If
And
anybody's got a chance to see this
dude,
show,
Rich is gonna upload the photo because like honestly, this is my favorite, favorite of all the pottery that I saw. This was my ultimate favorite. And yours was the duck one, right? Honestly, the duck one was
oh,
really
the
cool too.
duck one, the lima bean war. The duck one was really cool too. Those are both Peruvian ones. It's just like,
Mhm.
what? Ducks.
But
I love
what
it.
makes it well, and this is where I wish I had more background into like why would you do this, or like, or is it just somebody just being creative, kind of like people do art and pottery nowadays, just it has no rhyme or reason, they just do it because they fucking feel like it, you know what I mean?
Mm,
So I don't know. I'm always curious about how do they know that this is what this means or whatever, like
right,
I'm
right,
not
right.
sure.
Well, I gotta say, I mean, those it's just kind of amazing. I mean, just the idea that we were able to stay in Los Angeles and kind of transport ourselves to an Italian villa, like
Yes.
within like 40 minutes of arriving. I mean, it's not far. I mean, with traffic and everything, it's one thing. I mean, I think we could have gotten there a lot sooner if we didn't have to go to LA traffic, but the idea that you can transport yourself into like a different part of the world, but not be in a different part of the world, and then kind of, have all these beautiful things there. It's just like,
And
it's
it's
amazing.
fucking free. And it's
Free.
fucking free. So there's also a bus stop. I mean, should you want to take public transportation, there's a bus stop that drops you off right in the front as well. Um, but I mean, it is quite the transportation to get
Yeah, it's
there
quite the trip to get there.
because we got there as soon as it opened via car.
Mm.
And even though we were there the entire day, like we had to rush through some of the exhibits because we were like, oh my God, like
There's just, even though it
there's
doesn't feel like
so
it's very
much.
big, there's just so much to see that
It
you
is.
really you could do it in 2 days and take it in. And we only did two tours. There were like a few other tours that we didn't have a
Yeah,
chance to
they had
go
the
on
garden
because of the.
tour, which I would have loved to do, but I'm like, well, I already know about garden and stuff. I really was super interested in this the pottery one and the architecture because even though I really love I'm super into architecture, but I know nothing about it, or like, so I really wanted somebody to explain to me like what is the architect, like what how I don't know. It just it was great that well, I thought it was great that we did that tour.
Well, I thought it was good too. I mean, just because they explained everything in detail, everything down to the column, to the decorations around the column, to the tile. All of it had meaning
To the
to everything.
material
Yeah, the
and
materials.
exactly. And then even just how they built it. It just was like, what? Like that much thought went into creating. And this is just a replica of a villa. So, mind you, this is a mini version, literally a mini version of what an actual villa looks like. So, I can't even imagine what an actual villa looks like if this is a miniature, and to me this is ginormous, like what
We're
is
gonna go to a
it?
villa later on in the year sometime soon. We're gonna do a compare and contrast. Well, this was this fake villa, then we're gonna do the
Would
real villa
love to
in
do
Italy
that.
and see what the difference
Like,
is.
let's see
Ah,
how true to a real villa this got.
right. Well, that's for another show. But
But
so we
even
did the
even
architect.
the colors and just I just thought it was amazing. Like, just wow.
Yeah, architecture and I don't know, everything had purpose. Everything was geometrically sound. It's just like you look at something that was just like almost perfect. It was just like
Well, she said that because the mentality of that time was dominance. So dominance over nature. So you were in charge. And so that's the reasoning behind this type of architecture is dominance over nature. So you have to make it uh functional for you. You have to make
mm,
like it's kind of like you're putting reins on nature and then making it functional for your house.
mm. And I didn't realize it till we were ending our architectural tour of like why it was designed the way it was. And then that was a whole revelation. I was like, why is it like this? Why is it like this? And
Yes, exactly.
so it was meant to make you feel like if you were walking into an architectural dig site. So as you leave the parking lot, you walk out and it's just like you're walking down into the villa as if that's what they've uncovered and then you got the villa. So I mean, and nobody you don't get the sense of that when you're doing it, but after that tour, it made total sense. Like looking around, it was
Yeah,
pretty
because
amazing.
I wondered honestly when we were walking up to it, and I was just like, why does it look like all this granite? And I was just like, wow, okay. But then and so once I went through the tour, which also they have that tour on that fucking application because I'm telling you, I went through the application and went through each tour because I was like, well, maybe I missed out on something, because like we kind of speed walk through a lot of it. But I was just like, I was trying to intake everything. But also in the application, they have the architecture tour and they explain that as well. But I honestly preferred a docent because it has a lot um
Oh, you can
more
ask questions
insight.
too. Yeah.
Exactly, yes, and ask questions like, wait a minute, but what about this and da da da. And so you're like, oh, okay. And I don't know, I think I don't know, I just love having a
It was
person
it was
tour.
quite nice. No, it was quite nice. And then I think afterwards we kind of we just kind of caught up with some of the things that we thought we had missed. I mean, there was so much to see. There's just so much and I even think that even with what we were doing, we're kind of like speed walking, just trying to take it in, take it in, take it in. There was so much to take in. I was just like, I don't know, just like so much.
Even then, so they also have like the Egyptian, and okay, I've always been fascinated by Egyptian culture. Always. I don't know, since I was a kid, I have been fascinated by Egyptian culture. And so they have in the downstairs part. And so that I was just like, that's why I kind of speed walked through some of their, Greek chingaderas
Mhm.
upstairs. And I was like, okay, but I really got to get to this fucking Egyptian section because, like, I really want to see it. And so it was just like, I
It
don't know
was cool. They had a
why.
mummy. They had a mummy there. and
They
the
had
mummy.
several mummies. Well,
Yeah, there's a
Even the Greeks. So, okay. So another thing, which I don't know if people know, but Greek and Egyptian had a very they kind of both piggyback off each other. So a lot of it is interrelated into both their cultures because they were happening at the same time. And
hmm,
so you see a lot of that translate from one to another, and you're like,
the
fuck.
sarcophaguses. Yeah,
Yeah,
the burial sites,
sarcophagi.
the
I don't know.
sarcophagi, multi sarcophagi.
I don't know if that's what
Yeah,
it is, but
yeah, all these like there are some amazing ones, and there even
and
do you
that they
remember
had
that big
paintings of the
they have paintings
faces
of the people
for, and
for
this
the
is
Egyptians.
For the Greek portion. When we were going through the Greek portion, they had like paintings of people's faces,
Hmm.
and it looked super real, like to
I thought
me.
that was in some of the Egyptian one too, where that mummy
No,
was. No,
well, that was
yeah,
downstairs. I'm talking about
downstairs.
upstairs. The upstairs
Oh,
when we
those are
saw
the
those
oh
mummies
yeah,
with us
those
with
are
the
the oh yeah,
yes,
no,
the
those are
Greek ones.
oh the Greek
Yes,
ones were
bro.
weird. The Greek
Dude,
ones were weird. Wait, because the Greek ones they were busts. They were like they weren't painting. They were actual like sculptures of the deceased person's face.
no, but they also had like a canvas painting over the actual mummy that really the painting
Hmm.
itself looked so realistic of like an actual person. And so I was just like, what? Like this is
Hmm.
so fucking crazy and bizarre. And also like I have to say these people were really small
I mean, right?
compared
Yeah, it's like
to
compared to us, compared to
yeah,
now, right?
and like I'm pretty short, like I'm 5'5". And so normally, well, except for in Mexican folklorico, I'm actually kind of tall in that aspect. But anywhere else, I'm like super short. Um, I was like, oh my God, these people are so tiny. They're like Guatemalans.
Like Guatemala. Oh my god. Yeah, no,
Well, when I was in Guatemala, I was just like, oh my God, I feel
I'm
like
the
a
tallest person.
European. I can see above people. Like, I've never been able to do that in my life. Like, see above people. Like, I am shorter than everybody. But
Oh
when I
my
was in
stars.
Guatemala, I was actually taller than most people. And I was like, yes. Like, so this is what it feels to be tall. I mean, Rich, you know this because you're tall as fuck. So you know
Well, not
this.
that tall, but
This is part of your life. Like, you can see above everybody else. Okay?
I can see above most folk. And if I gotta look
Exactly.
up to somebody, they're tall. They're
Yeah,
pretty tall. They're above
exactly my
6.
point.
Yeah. But that was it. It was quite amazing to see all that. Just different cultures doing different things or very similar things.
Well, and that's what I loved most is that I think the theme of all of this that we experience was that we have so many different cultures during different times
Mm,
in the timeline, but doing similar things. And so I
thank you.
think, well, what I got from this was
Mm.
that fundamentally, this is we're humans.
We're celebrating life
Well,
or
no, but we're
life and death.
humans. No, we're
Yeah.
humans. Like we are doing human shit. Like cat do cat things, bear do bear things. And so humans do human things, which is all similar, even though they're in different eras, different timelines, different countries, totally separated and with no possibility of being in contact with each other, like we're doing similar things. So that basically, what I got from this is that we are fucking animals behaving like fucking animals, like human animals. Just like all panthers behave like panthers behave. All
Right,
bears
right.
behave like bears behave. All humans behave like humans behave. So that's why we have the similarities in pottery. We have the similarities in all this,
Mm.
uh,
Yeah.
mov- and so that's what I got from the visit. But
Mm.
I'm not sure what you that. I
What I
mean,
got,
I
well,
don't know,
I mean,
maybe.
well, one, I got that. Yeah, we do all, like I said. I think we, as all humans do, humans doing human things. We are celebrating our loved ones either in life or in the afterlife as a celebration. We remember them. They have funerals and things like that. They all left like something. Most of the pottery that was recovered or that was in the museum was from funeral sites, and most of the stuff was in burial sites, so that you knew people were loved, people were remembered, and people were regarded. Like you thought of your loved ones or people around you, and I think that's what humans do. You remember folks even after they're gone, and that's what everybody was doing it all across the cultures, and drinking because people had a good time. I mean, a lot of drinking involved probably before and after, in celebrations, I would imagine. Well, that's what I got out of it. I'm like, people doing people things, humans doing human things, people
Right, which
celebrating
is
life.
right. And but what I love most, it's kind of that the underlying thing is that across the board, we're all humans and we're all doing human behavior things because we are still animals. And so we are still behaving as human animals. Just like you can predict, uh, you know, I don't know, whale behavior, like, oh, this is whale behavior, da 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 da.
Yeah.
So this is human behavior. And so because they use very many different cultures to like with the pottery, it's like, yo, this was in totally different eras, completely
Mm.
different eras. Some was BC, some was, AD, and but the pottery still is humans doing human shit, you know what I mean? And so this is the bottom line is this is like what human behavior does. I saw it as kind of like a social, um, not like a social experiment, but more like a behavioral
Mm.
pathway,
A-
like a atlas of
Human
like
behavior. Well, it's more
human
more behavioral
behavior, history of human behavior. There you go. That's what I would
history
call
of
it.
behavior.
History of human
Yeah,
behavior, which
for
I
sure.
I really I found it super interesting, but also because maybe like when I went to vet tech school, I focus on animal behavior. So that was my focus. And so
Mm.
I see things, or I guess I analyze things kind of from that perspective of like animal behavior perspective. And since we are animals, I also see us as, so I like to analyze animal behavior.
No, that'd be a dog. Um,
Was that Rex?
no, that,
What was that?
that was me. I was
Oh,
woofing. I was
oh,
woofing.
I was like, what the fuck? I was like, I've never heard Rex spark like that.
My stars. No, that was I. That was me. And so, then we got to walk around. I mean, they got a beautiful garden. They got like it was just like this giant long lap pool. I mean, and that was the size to a real villa. So that was actually made to the pool they had there, and the garden was made to be identical to a real villa. And that was pretty amazing to
Well,
see.
it's
I mean,
still
it's
though
all.
on a miniature size of what a real villa would look like. And then like,
Mm.
okay, so um I want to kind of paint a picture mentally to all our listeners. The bottom portion, so what explained to us would be, well, the entrance would be where most people would congregate. However, you would never go past that unless you were like a super special guest. And then the upper part, like the top
Second
second
story was
floor,
for all the helpers.
yeah, and like storage. And I'm like, oh my God, how culture has changed because now, well, at least in LA, the higher you are, the higher society you're in,
Yeah,
you know?
the penthouse suite, and then all the way down.
Exactly. Uh-huh. Exactly. And so that to think that back then the upper floors were for servants is kind of like, wow, we've done such a turnaround in terms of hierarchy. I don't know.
I'm still amazed that it's for free. I'll say
Yeah.
this again, once again,
Yeah.
it's free. I
It's
mean,
fucking
aside from the
free.
parking, pay for the parking, but I think it's worth the parking fee regardless and what you get out of there. And then, I guess
Let's
in the
carpool.
summers, yeah, let's carpool.
Carpool, and then it'll be totally worth it.
Yeah, I think in the summers they had an amphitheater too. So there's an
Oh
amphitheater
my
there,
God.
like carved into the thing, and they have shows. They have like
Yes.
dramatizations and stuff that go on during the summer. So maybe we'll catch one of those. But that was also kind of cool too. So they have certain special events that you can check out and see. And
And
I
I
think,
have to
oh, what
say
else?
that the shop, the gift shop, well, as you can see, well, if you're looking at us, behind me is a bunch of books. Um, I was so intrigued by all the books that they had. I was just like, oh my God, I can totally go crazy buying books here. They have an
It is quite
amazing
nice.
book collection at the gift shop. I was just like, what?
So you can get transported to Italy and be in LA and have like a nice lunch and look at some art and
And look at the
artifacts
ocean from there, because you also
mm,
have the view of the ocean. It just,
and the smell, the ocean. It's like the breeze. It's cool. It's
yes.
just like this. Just it's like you're in another world. It's kind of nice. You're transported.
And that's why I felt like, oh my God, this is what it would feel like to be in an actual Italian villa, in the island or somewhere, because they're near the ocean. So it's very, I don't know. It really makes you feel so, like, I guess if you can't afford to go to Italy, like, just go to the villa right
Go to
quick.
the villa and
It's
go to the villa and
$25 for
have a
parking. It's free to get in. If you can carpool
um
and then like hacer un colectivo for the
yeah, have
parking.
a bottle of wine or two, depending on how many people you
Oh,
have with
and I
you.
and you can bring your own food.
Oh, I
Also,
didn't know this.
yeah, you can bring your own food. So,
Oh, amazing.
yeah, that's why they have the picnic area. So they have a picnic area and you can actually pack your own lunch and bring your own
Oh,
lunch.
wow. So you can bring your own wine.
I don't know about wine. I said
I don't know about
lunch.
wine, lunch. I mean, if you're gonna have a
Lunch.
picnic, you're gonna have a picnic. But
I
that's awesome.
mean, we are not here to say if you can sneak in or not. Anyone? I
Yeah.
don't know,
Y-
but you
Everybody
can
does what they want
have
to do.
a lunch. You can
But
pack your own lunch, bring it, and eat it on the premises. They
we
will
can actually
allow
say
you.
that that red wine was good, and I'm sure that the white wine and everything was probably just as good.
Well,
So
it just went perfectly with our food, dude. Honestly, that food was fucking amazing. I loved it so much. I was just like, well, because it really kind of sealed the deal of feeling like you're in the fucking Italian villa,
mm,
you know?
mm.
It was just like, oh, I was into it.
Well, folks, that was our trip to the Getty Villa, and we hope that you take time and whenever you got a moment, go to the Getty Villa. It's not far, especially if you're in Los Angeles or if you're visiting Los Angeles, check it out. It's
Well, also if you're like a local and if you feel like, I mean, because a lot of the times I feel like, oh, how do I get away? But I don't have money to get away or whatever. I just want
mm,
to do something different.
Mm.
Dude, this really kind of transports you in, like if you're kind of like plugged into like just a different timeline, a different culture, a different just everything. It's, you know, and so
It
I
was really
say it's
cool.
totally worth it. It's only $25 for parking. It's actually free. You can check out online to see what type of tours they're having or what kind of displays that they're having. And then also during the summertime, they have like concerts and plays. And
Mm,
so it's just like,
mm.
I was like, yes, I want to come back and, watch a play here because it's just, yeah, it's magical. And it's like so quick.
It's not
Also,
far.
if you don't have a car, you can take a bus as well. I mean, it takes kind of
I would
maybe long,
actually,
but
I would actually get a group together and go carpool. That's kind of
yeah,
cool
that's what I
too.
would do too. That's what I was saying. I was like, if you carpool and y'all pitch in, then $5 each, can definitely get you in for much
Yeah,
cheaper. So,
it's a staycation,
yeah.
the close
Another one
staycation.
of those staycations of yours, like how we did the
So nice.
Catalina. hmm This is actually cheaper
Uh,
than Catalina.
yeah, you just drive there and then pay for parking and brave the traffic in the morning. Um, and so that's that. That's that, folks.
Yeah.
We'll have some links to the Getty Villa, but you can look it up. It's pretty popular or famous, and or maybe not so famous. I don't know. Maybe you've never heard of it, but check it out. It's something to be seen while you're in LA. It's kind of like a little hidden gem, I think. It's near and dear
It
to my
really
heart
is a
now
hidden
because
gem. Yeah.
you know, I I I really can't stress how wonderful it was to kind of be transported and be or feel like you're somewhere else, but still being in like Los Angeles. It's kind of nice. So on that note, we'll be back again and do something else in LA that or somewhere else will kind of plug you into something.
Well, I think our next episode is going to be about Alaska. And so I'll delve more into that in our next episode.
Which is not a staycation,
It's
but
not a
hey,
staycation, but it's still doable.
it's not far. It's on the West Coast, so it's something to go, something to do, and then we'll have to talk a lot more about that. And until next time, folks, this is Richmo,
And this is Lala. Check it out.
and see you. Bye bye.
Next time on Whahahappen. Please don't forget to hit that like button, follow us, and rate and review us.
Wherever you listen to our podcast.
This truly helps us to expand our audience.
Also, if you would like us to read your story, may it be funny, scary,
or just some hot chisme, please send us an email through our website, whahahappen.com, which is also a great way to find links to all of our social media and to read our bios.